At some point in your life, your brain made a silent decision. This is who I need to be to protect myself. The strange part? That version of you might still be running your life today, even though the situation that shaped it may have changed long ago. Most people believe their personality is something natural, something they were simply born with. But psychology suggests something far more interesting. Many of the traits you believe define you may actually be strategies your brain developed to adapt to your environment. And once you start noticing this, something unusual begins to happen. Your personality might not only be who you are, it might also be who you learn to become. How the brain builds a personality. When we think about personality, we usually imagine something fixed, something permanent. But the brain doesn't think in terms of identity. The brain thinks in terms of adaptation, especially during childhood. As children, we are constantly observing the world around us, watching, learning, adjusting, not asking, "Who am I?" but asking something far more important to a young brain. What do I need to do to feel safe here? And slowly, your brain begins shaping a version of you that works in that environment. A version that avoids conflict, that earns approval, that reduces tension, that helps you belong. Over time, those adaptations can become part of your personality. Common adaptation roles. If you look closely at adult personalities, you begin to notice patterns. Certain roles appear again and again, roles that once made sense in specific environments. One of the most common is the peacemaker. This is the person who avoids conflict whenever possible. They stay agreeable. They smooth things over. Because earlier in life, conflict didn't feel comfortable or predictable, so their brain learned a simple rule. Keeping the peace helps everything stay stable. Another common role is the perfectionist. Always improving, always pushing harder, rarely satisfied. Not because they enjoy pressure, but because approval once seemed connected to performance. Their brain quietly learned, if I do things well, I will be valued. Then there is the invisible one, the person who stays quiet, avoids attention, takes up as little space as possible, because attention once meant criticism or discomfort, so staying unnoticed felt easier. There is also the entertainer, always funny, always charming, always keeping the mood light. But humor can sometimes become a shield, because when people are laughing, the pressure in the room disappears. And finally, there is the strong one, the person who rarely asks for help, who carries a lot on their own, because earlier in life, they felt like they had to handle everything alone. So independence became their strategy. The hidden paradox. Here's where things become interesting. The personality that once helped you adapt can sometimes begin to limit you later in life. The peacemaker may struggle to express frustration. The perfectionist may rarely feel satisfied. The invisible one may feel overlooked. The entertainer may feel exhausted from always performing. And the strong one may quietly feel isolated. Because these roles were designed for one main purpose: stability. But stability and freedom are not always the same thing. A personality shaped by past environments may continue operating, even when life circumstances have changed. The moment people start questioning. For many people, this realization doesn't happen immediately. It often appears later in life, sometimes during burnout, sometimes after a relationship ends, sometimes during self-reflection or therapy, or sometimes during a quiet moment when a strange question appears. Why do I keep reacting this way? And when people begin asking that question, patterns start revealing themselves. Why they apologize quickly? Why they avoid difficult conversations? Why they overwork? Why they hide their feelings? And slowly, the personality they thought was permanent starts to look more like a set of learned responses. Responses that once made sense, but may not always be necessary anymore. But changing these patterns is not easy, because your brain remembers something important. These strategies helped before. They helped you feel accepted. They helped you avoid tension. They helped you fit into your environment. So when you begin acting differently, your nervous system can react. Conflict suddenly feels uncomfortable. Rest can feel unfamiliar. Asking for help can feel strange. Even when logically, you know your environment is different now, your brain may still be running old adaptation patterns. And changing those patterns takes time. The question most people avoid. But there is one question that changes everything. A question many people never ask themselves. If parts of your personality were shaped by adaptation, then what parts of you never had the chance to fully appear? The curious part, the expressive part, the playful part, the honest part, the version of you that isn't constantly adjusting itself to expectations, the version that isn't protecting, just existing. Discovering that side of yourself can feel unfamiliar because for the first time, you are not only being who you needed to be, you are exploring who you might naturally be. So here is something worth thinking about. Right now, some part of your personality might still be doing the job it learned years ago. Keeping the peace, staying quiet, trying to be perfect, handling everything alone. But what if the environment that shaped those patterns no longer exists in the same way? What if those roles have simply stayed with you longer than necessary? And if that's true, then one quiet question remains. A question that might stay with you long after this video ends. If you no longer felt the need to constantly adapt, who might you become?